You won't believe what happened the morning Karen decided to mess with my car. She strutted up my driveway like she owned the whole neighborhood, sunglasses perched on her nose as if she were the queen of this cul-de-sac. She didn't know I was watching from the window. She didn't know the stickers she was about to peel off weren't just random. Bumper stickers I slapped on for fun, they were court-ordered. By the time she realized it, it was already too late. It all started a few weeks ago when I moved into this neighborhood. I had no idea that stepping into this place meant stepping into a war zone run by Karen and her little HOA army. At first, I thought the whole homeowners association thing was harmless, just a bunch of retired people who like to argue about lawn decorations. But Karen wasn't just some busybody neighbor. She was obsessed with control. She wanted to dictate what color curtains you could hang, how many times you could mow your lawn, and apparently, even what kind of stickers you could put on your own car. The thing about me, though, is I don't back down when I'm right. And I was definitely right in this situation because those stickers weren't optional. The judge had ordered me to display them after a long, drawn-out legal battle over a completely different issue. Without them, I'd risk getting fined or even arrested. But of course, Karen didn't care about that. She only cared about how those ugly stickers looked parked in her perfect little HOA-approved neighborhood. The first time Karen confronted me was almost funny. I was unloading groceries from my car when she marched over, her little HOA badge swinging from a lanyard around her neck like she was some kind of cop. "Those stickers," she snapped, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at the rear window of my car, "are an eyesore. They don't belong here." I gave her my politest smile, even though I was already annoyed. "They're court-ordered. I don't have a choice." Karen's lips tightened. "Court-ordered? That's ridiculous. No court can force you to vandalize your own vehicle with something that hideous." She gestured dramatically like my car was covered in neon graffiti. I wanted to laugh at how serious she was, but I kept my cool. "It's the law. If you touch those stickers, you're interfering with a legal order. You could get in real trouble." Her eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she hissed before storming off. At the time, I figured she was just bluffing. But I underestimated how far Karen would go to get her way. A week later, I caught her taking pictures of my car. She thought I wouldn't notice, but she stood there for almost 10 minutes, circling it like a hawk. She even crouched down at one point to get a better angle. I stepped outside and asked if she needed something, and she pretended she was just documenting violations. For the HOA records, I told her again the stickers were court-mandated. But she ignored me and marched off like she was building a legal case against me. Then came the morning she finally snapped. I woke up to the sound of pilling, yes, actual pilling, and when I looked outside, there she was, ripping at the stickers with both hands. She thought she was doing the neighborhood a favor, muttering under her breath about how this isn't going to fly in my community. I grabbed my phone and started recording because I knew this was going to blow up. "Karen," I yelled. As I opened the door, she froze halfway through, ripping one of the stickers off. Her face turned red, but she tried to play it cool. "Oh, good morning. I was just fixing this for you. These look awful. I thought I'd help you out." "Help me out?" I laughed. "Karen, those stickers are required by a judge. You just committed a crime." For a second, she looked genuinely confused. "A crime? Don't be ridiculous." But when I walked closer and held up my phone, still recording, her confidence started to crack. "Karen, you just tampered with a court-ordered legal notice. That's destruction of government-mandated property. You know what the penalty for that is?" I asked, keeping my voice calm but firm. Her jaw tightened. "You're bluffing. Am I?" I tilted my phone so she could see it clearly. "It's 'cause this is all on video, and the police are going to love watching it." For the first time since I met her, Karen looked nervous. Karen froze, her fingers still pressed against the half-peeled sticker like she was a kid, caught with her hand in the cookie jar. The bold, defiant glare she always carried around the neighborhood slipped for just a moment, replaced by the tiniest flicker of panic. But Karen, being Karen, she quickly tried to recover, straightening her posture and plastering on that smug grin. She always wore when she thought she had the upper hand. "You wouldn't actually call the police over this?" She scoffed, waving dismissively at the stickers, as if ripping off quartered property was nothing more than pulling a weed from a lawn. I crossed my arms and stared at her. Karen, you're on video destroying a legal notice. I'm the one who gets in trouble. You think a judge is going to care about your HOA rules when there's a legal order involved? Her smirk wavered. Don't be dramatic. The HOA has authority here. I almost laughed. The HOA doesn't outrank the government. Linked at me like this was the first time anyone had dared talk back to her. You could practically see the gears turning in her head as she searched for a way to wriggle out of the mess she'd just made. But she wasn't quick enough, because right at that moment, my neighbor Mark walked out with his coffee and spotted us. What's going on? He called, strolling over with a curious grin. Karen's head whipped toward him like she'd been caught in headlights. Nothing. Just HOA business, she stammered. Really? Mark said, glancing at my car. Because it looks like you're vandalizing his stickers. I shot him a grateful look. Exactly. And these stickers are court-ordered. Karen just committed a serious violation. Mark raised his eyebrows. Court-ordered. Karen, that's bad news. Karen's face turned beet red. She opened her mouth to argue, but Mark, who's always been a straight shooter, cut her off. Should probably leave before you dig yourself in deeper. But Karen wasn't the type to admit defeat easily. She stood there, practically vibrating with anger, before finally huffing and turning on her heel. This isn't over, she snapped, marching back toward her house like a storm cloud. I thought maybe, just maybe she'd back off after that. I was wrong. The next day, I woke up to find a formal-looking paper taped to my front door. It was an HOA violation notice written, of course, by Karen herself. According to the letter, my unsightly and non-compliant vehicle stickers were bringing down the neighborhood's property value and overall aesthetic. I laughed out loud reading it. She was actually doubling down. But what made me angrier wasn't the notice, it was the threat at the bottom. Karen had written that if I didn't remove the stickers within 48 hours, the HOA would take further action, which I assumed meant fines or even towing my car. That was the last straw. I grabbed the notice, snapped a picture of it, forwarded it to my lawyer, along with a video of Karen peeling the stickers. My lawyer called me back within an hour, practically fuming. She touched court-ordered property, said that's tampering with a legal notice. Don't worry, we're going to handle this. I wasn't sure exactly what he meant by handle this, but I had a feeling Karen was about to get a very rude awakening. The following morning, I was sipping my coffee when I saw a police cruiser slowly pulling into the neighborhood, and guess whose house it stopped in front of? Karen's. I set my mug down and stepped outside, pretending to check my mail, but really I wanted a front row seat. Karen opened her door, looking irritated, probably expecting another delivery. But the second she saw the two officers standing on her porch, her expression shifted to confusion, then panic. Karen Mitchell? One of the officers asked. Yes, she said cautiously. We need to talk to you about an incident involving tampering with court-ordered property. Her face drained of color. That's ridiculous. This is an HOA matter. Ma'am, the HOA doesn't override state law, the officer replied firmly. We have video evidence of you removing legal stickers from a vehicle. That's a violation. Karen sputtered something about just cleaning up the neighborhood, but the officers didn't budge. They asked her to come down to the station for questioning. As they escorted her toward the cruiser, she turned her head and glared at me. If looks could kill, I'd have been 6 feet under. But all I did was smile and wave. That should have been the end of it, but Karen wasn't the type to learn her lesson easily. 2 days later, she was back, more furious than ever. And she had a new plan, one that made the whole neighborhood turn against her. And that's where things really started to spiral out of control. You'd think after being hauled off by the police for questioning, Karen would finally take the hint and back off. But no, Karen was the type who thrived on chaos. And if she couldn't win by playing fair, she was going to cheat, lie, and drag the whole neighborhood into her personal war with me. It started 2 days after she got back from the station. I woke up to find not just one, but 3 HOA notices taped to my door. One claimed my vehicle was a hazard. Another accused me of lowering community standards. And the third, my personal favorites, digested that my presence was disruptive to neighborhood harmony. She was clearly losing it, but the best part? She'd copied every single house on the street with the same flyers. When I stepped outside, people were literally standing in their driveways, holding the letters and shaking their heads. Mark my. Neighbor caught my eye and laughed. Karen's really losing her mind, huh? Apparently, I said, but Karen wasn't done yet. That afternoon, she held an emergency HOA meeting in her front yard. She dragged out folding chairs, a little podium, and even set up a microphone like she was hosting some political rally. Half the neighborhood showed up, some out of curiosity, others probably just to grab popcorn and watch the drama. I stayed. In my driveway, leaning casually against my car while filming the whole thing, Karen stood at the podium, dressed in a crisp blazer like she was running for mayor. "Neighbors," she began, her voice sharp and authoritative. "We need to address the growing problem in our community. This," she gestured dramatically toward, "my car is unacceptable. These hideous stickers are ruining our neighborhoods, reputation, and property values. We cannot allow this kind of visual pollution to continue." A few people exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one cheered. Then she made her biggest mistake yet. "Furthermore," she continued, "we've spoken to a towing company, and if this vehicle is not brought into compliance, we will have no choice but to remove it ourselves." At that, a murmur ran through the crowd. Mark spoke up first. "Karen, you can't tow a car that has a court order on it. That's illegal." Karen snapped her head toward him, glaring. "We have an HOA decision, Mark. We have authority." Mark wasn't having it. "The HOA doesn't outrank state law, Karen. You already got in trouble for touching those stickers once." Several people nodded in agreement, and I couldn't help but smile. Karen's power was slipping, and she knew it. Still, she pushed on, her voice rising. "If we don't act now, this entire neighborhood will be overrun with." She didn't get to finish her sentence because, at that exact moment, 2 police cars pulled into the Koldosh Dadash Sack. The officers stepped out, and the crowd went silent. "Karen Mitchell," one of them said, walking straight toward her. Karen stiffened. "What now?" she demanded, trying to sound in control. "We need to talk to you again," the officer said. "We received a complaint about threats to remove court-mandated property. That's considered interference with a legal order." "We're already warned about this," Karen sputtered. "This is an HOA matter." The officer shook his head. "Ma'am, HOA rules do not override state law. You're risking serious charges. If you follow through with this towing threat..." The crowd started whispering. A few people even pulled out their phones to record. Karen's face went pale as she realized she was outnumbered and out of excuses. But instead of apologizing or backing down gracefully, she did what Karen does best. She exploded. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You're all turning against me for some stupid stickers. I've been running this HOA for 8 years. You need me." No one said anything. A couple of people shifted uncomfortably, and someone in the back muttered, "Maybe it's time we elected someone else." That was it. Karen's jaw dropped. For the first time, she looked truly defeated. The officers gave her one final warning before leaving, and Karen, shaking with anger, stormed back into her house without another word. The fallout was glorious. By the end of the week, the neighborhood held a vote, and Karen was officially removed as HOA president. Mark ended up taking her place, and the first thing he did was issue a public statement saying my stickers were legally protected and that anyone who touched them would face fines and legal action. Karen stopped talking to me entirely after that. She avoided me like the plague, probably too embarrassed to even look me in the eye. Her once feared hoot empire had crumbled, and all because she couldn't leave my car alone. One evening, as I sat on my porch sipping a cold drink, Mark came over and grinned. He said, "You might have just saved this whole neighborhood." From Karen, I laughed. All I did was follow the law. "Yeah," he said, "but Karen's the type who only learns the hard way." And as I looked over at Karen's house, curtains drawn tight, I couldn't help but smile. Once, peace had finally returned to the neighborhood, and all it took was a few ugly stickers and a whole lot of patience.